We've already sort of diminished the value of a lot of this expression of interest on the web. Facebook will announce momentarily a need and a want button in addition to like buttons. They won't have a dislike button for a while. But this is intended to enrich the data flow so it's actually meaningful because they've already pushed the like beyond the level of having any.
Good evening. I'm so happy to be here today in this challenging role of moderator because I have to sit here amongst three great movers and shakers and thinkers in the arts field today. So I was thinking about, like, am I plugged in, right? Like, I'm always on YouTube. That's like my favorite website in the world. And all of my friends on the Facebook can say, yeah, because I'm always posting all these crazy videos that I always find, right? So I was thinking about just exactly what are some implications of technology on the arts today. And thinking about it ecologically, if I can use those that particular term, I think youth today are not only the consumers of media arts, but they're also the producers of it. So I figured for the next hour and a half, we were going to talk specifically about that. Before I get started with some questions, I also was looking at just what are some components to media arts today? And I came out with 4. Number 1 would be immediacy. So you produce something and the whole world can view it within like 2 minutes. So it sort of like breaks down the old way of having to work really hard. Well, you still have to work really hard, but having to find someone or some entity to distribute your artwork, going out to every film event. You don't necessarily have to do that today. Number 2 would be accessibility. Tools are widely available from your camera to your phone and potentially soon to your watch, right? When is that going to come out? I'm sure they're already working on it. You know, already working on it. Number 3 would be contextualization. So works really deal with spaces and places that are close to the author. So it's usually about their hometowns, their schools, their lives. And within that, works are extremely personal in that stories are told and retold from the perspective of the author. So with that in mind, I thought I would turn it over to our guest today.
Right, so that seems like only 3, but you said you had 4.
It was 4. Okay. Immediacy, accessibility, contextual, personal. Which is kind of related to the contextual. I know. Math, this is supposed to be like an arts group, not a math group. Okay, so when I think about this idea of youth as producers, not only consumers, I'm interested in hearing from you all about what are the broad implications on media arts education? Like, what does that mean in terms of schools, classrooms, things you learn? And then we'll go like deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into that. If anyone would like to start. Go ahead, Howard.
Well, can everybody hear me without the microphone? No. Okay. You can't hear me? So
Thank you.
So I was going to add a 5th item to your list. That's why I was so concerned about it. So we're concerned about the issue of authenticity. And it's a huge issue on news, but honestly, it's an issue for education in every respect as well. If you think about the way the world works, if there's an event or an episode or an incident anywhere in the world now, years before the networks get there, 400 people have captured that on their video and they put it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it real? Is it fake? Is it, inflammatory? Is it propaganda? We have no idea. And the whole issue of education in the past used to be, well, if it was in a book, at least it was authenticated and relatively validated by some source. And today we have none of that. In fact, if I was teaching an 8-year-old anything, I would teach them to second source everything, including who their parents were. Right? And then I would maybe have some comfort in the authenticity of the stuff. But if we don't have that kind of a jaundiced eye, we're in real trouble with respect to anything really on your list, context or any of these things, because we have to figure out how we're going to validate this whole new flow of information.
I think one other, if we're going to add to the list, and maybe it's embedded in there someplace, is the idea of network. And you talked about YouTube and sharing, but also I think you always, at least in the 21st century, it seems like you always go back to the network. You're either building it, you're figuring out what part of it you are. And I think that's something else for us to talk about in this, as we look at, technology and the arts. Because your audience, can be incredible and widespread, but so can your inspiration and your resources. So it does change what art looks like.
So if we're gonna still add, I would.
It's a growing list.
Sorry.
This also I think goes back to your question as well with youth and media and classrooms. But often I think about collaboration and how, with the rise of digital media, I think goes hand in hand with there's really no room I think for the authentic any longer. I don't know what that means when I'm thinking about the digital versus analog. Right? So yes, I would agree.
Well, I think also two more things. One is sort of whatever your number was, this will be A on your number. The idea that we're constantly connected and tethered, that we have access 24/7 to not simply our opinions, but our peers and our friends and every other piece of research and everything out there is going to make us either smarter consumers or at least, sort of more glutted consumers in terms of a lot of information. But this whole school is premised on two things. One is collaboration, and two is that we do everything in teams. Honestly, I think that if we're talking about what's going on in the classroom, project-based and team-based learning where the students are constructing their own learning, which has always been a part of the arts, needs to find its way into some of these more sterile disciplines where you don't have that direct connection. We have these open houses every other Saturday morning, and about 90% of the students who arrive with their parents think that they died and went to heaven because they never have to study English or math. So we call it storytelling. What a surprise, right? If you can't explain your ideas, if you can't present your information, if you can't figure out a budget, you're not going anywhere. So, and then the other group is we tell them that all the technology in the world isn't going to save a story that sucks, which is also true. So storytelling, educational and entertainment value, these things are never going to change. The question is new tools, new media. And the last thing I'd say about networking is a gigantic issue within the classroom is going to be, now that the web has enabled not simply one-to-many, which is sort of the sage on the stage, but it's now these interactive worlds, we don't know what to do about laptops. We don't know whether they're taking notes or they're watching movies on YouTube. And so, if you walk around the back of a classroom, you never want to do that. If you're in fact the instructor, it's very depressing. Some of our cameras watch, so we have eyes behind our head in these classrooms. But
that's what that's for.
Yeah, that's important information and sort of an issue. You want them to share and exchange these ideas. We found, for example, in orientation that we put up our own little tweet network, and students who were unwilling to ask questions by raising their hand in a group we're absolutely happy to put that out on a tweet, and that dramatically increased the flow of information, and the whole process was more successful. But that was only because they were able to publish this stuff without actually standing up and having to do it in front of a group that might embarrass them or might otherwise be uncomfortable.
Right. Go ahead.
I was going to bring you back to the change that's happened in communication. So thinking about how we can more comfortably tweet something or like something, and not going back to collaboration in terms of putting something out there, whether it be on Vimeo or YouTube, and have all these comments then ensue, where I feel like through technology is now a new way of communication in terms of discussion-based or relatability between students.
Right. So it's almost like there's a variety of conversations happening in a classroom.
Mm.
There's one that's happening like from what students are creating, what students are talking about verbally, what they're talking about on the computer, and sort of like, how can a teacher access all of that in order to understand where students are, what to change in their teaching practice? Is there any room for that, like for here?
Well, for sure there's room for that. I mean, the issue is, you know, is that a technology-driven thing, or is that more an issue of sort of standing on the side and letting the students, you know, generate this, and maybe being more of a guide on the side rather than, you know, this presenter of I talk, you listen. So a lot of what we do, everything in the school is mobile, because as often as not, you'll walk into a classroom and there won't be the linear classroom. There'll be 5 or 6 different little work groups. And the teacher is a facilitator at that point. And it's important that they be a facilitator, because those groups are moving at different rates. They're moving, you know, the different students are learning and participating at different levels. So to try and do one size fits all anything anymore is gone.
Right.
You know, and so we're learning in the game business, we're learning in, you know, all the consumer businesses that we deal with, that fixed anything is gone. That the consumer is going to drive the value of anything, the amount of commitment they want to have. We know, for example, we can sell a student or a player $30 worth of 99-cent increments, but they won't subscribe for $10 a month. There's an issue of commitment. There's an issue of, I have my own life to live. There's a lot of stuff. But when they are engaged, it goes 5 times deeper than it would go, you know, ordinarily. But, you know, you mentioned so Coca-Cola was here this morning. They have 22 million people on their Facebook page. You know, they discard about 18 million of those people who liked the page for no reason other than maybe they got a package of Doritos or something, you know, if they agreed to like it. So we've already sort of diminished the value of a lot of this expression of interest on the web. Facebook will announce momentarily a need and a want button in addition to the like buttons. They won't have a dislike button for a while. But this is intended to enrich the data flow so it's actually meaningful, because they've already pushed the like beyond the level of having any real value.
Would either of you like to speak to this idea that students now come to our classes knowing how to make? I already know how to make videos, Mr. Plummer. I already know how to make blogs. I already know how to make podcasts. And so then it's like, okay, media production 101, what am I teaching?
So we have that all the time. Every film student who comes in says, I've been making movies for a year. And our answer is always the same. It's, you've made one movie for 5 years because you haven't had the benefit of constructive criticism. You haven't been collaborating with other people. You haven't learned much. So yeah, you've had a repetitive experience that maybe has taught you how to use the equipment, but you haven't really learned how to improve your storytelling or your construction or any of this stuff. And I think you have to do that. I think you have to sort of say it's great that you have some familiarity, but the methodology and the process is where the real educational value is. The other thing is, we say that it's about 50 hours a week here. This school is really a full-time job. And about a month into it, each year I get calls from parents saying, my kid's only in class 23 hours, you know, a week. You said 50. And I'm like, well, that's why we have labs. And let me introduce you to Malcolm Gladwell and this little